Hey guys, welcome back to Monique's Book List. So, we are here to talk about my top 10 favorite cozy murder mystery series. It'll be a two-part video. So the first part is going to be the top five, and then the second video will be the remaining five-ish, because technically I only have 8. I technically have 10, but I talked about 2 of the series in one of my very first videos, so I didn't want to add those back in here and make it, become a little redundant. So I have 8, but in the second video, I still have a total of 5 recommendations for you. So let's go ahead and get started. First and foremost, this hair is crazy. It's in the top knot with some hair hanging out. Yeah, I'm team too much today, and I ain't got... Let's get to these books. All right, so my top favorite, and I have some notes off to the side, so if you see me looking over, that's what it is. So my top favorite I would recommend if you're looking for a cozy murder mystery series is 1 and 2 are by the same author. Her name is Carrie Greenwood. She is an Australian author, and she writes cozy murder mysteries. The first series that I read of hers was called the Phryne Fisher series. There are 20 books in that series. And I read all except 1. The last one was kind of weird, so I didn't read it. So I read 19. The series is set in the 20s. And Phryne is an Australian heiress. Well, she's not an heiress, but she's independently wealthy, and she's living in Australia. Her family is actually British, but she's in Australia by herself, and she is a amateur sleuth out here making the police's job easy and hard at the same damn time. Each book is average about 200 pages. I think the first book was exactly 200 or 250 pages. They do tend to vary around there. Some things you should know about the series in the series you'll find that throughout the series you will notice there's one theme about Miss Phryne, and that is that she is not shy about loving the men's. Okay, she has a few lovers. No real heavy sex scenes in it. I think they like very respectfully talks about, like they do the kind of old school kiss and it goes to black and then you wake up and they're getting out of bed kind of feel to the love scenes in these books. Like it's nothing really like my actual romance books. Okay. Anyway, things about Phryne. Again, she's an amateur sleuth. She eventually, throughout the series, she adopts a daughter. She makes friends with one of the detectives, and I think there's some tension between the two of them, but I don't remember them eventually getting together. I think she still was very keen on this Asian man that she kind of fell for. So yeah, I don't think she ever gets with a police officer. She has a maid / companion that is always with her and helping her, and then she has these 2 cab drivers that she pays, but they're her friends too, but she pays to help her solve the crime. She has a lesbian sister of some importance. The reason for that, not really. It's just a thing that's in there. One of the things that I found interesting was the term for lesbian back in the day. Was it sav? I don't know. I'm gonna say it wrong, so I'm just gonna stop. So that's the first series that I read from Carrie Greenwood. The second series I read from her is called the Karina Chapman series. There's 6 books in the series that's out right now. The 7th book is coming out in July. Now, I don't know if that means that's out in America in July or if that's out in Australia. It just says publishing in July. However, I'm going to get it anyway, right? So the series follows a baker who has recently opened her own bakery. She's hired this homeless kid who she thinks initially is stealing from her, but the way she hires him is she thinks he's stealing from her shop, but he's not. So she hires him, and then she meets her boyfriend, and her boyfriend apparently is the hottest thing in town, and he's like ex-military. Ex-military, and he's very interested in Karina. And I hate to say this, but this is true in society. Karina is a bigger girl, and because she's a bigger girl, everyone's surprised that this very good-looking man is very interested in her. But he loves himself some Karina. Now, the sex scenes are not crazy in this book, but they are there. They're not it's nothing. I wouldn't call it adult. Well, there is some little sexy time in it, but it's nothing heavy. Recently divorced, and so that's why she opened her own bakery. Lives in a really cool, eclectic building with a bunch of people that she loves, or like loves hanging out and things like that. Also set in Australia and is set in modern day at the time the books were written. So just keep that in mind. It's set in the time that the books were written. Okay, so that's the first two. The third one is Reese Bowen. She has a series called Her Royal Spyness. There's 13 books in the series. I believe the series is done. And I'll explain. So in the book, you meet Lady Georgiana Renner, and she is the King of England's cousin. And the great thing about this series, what Reese has done, is she has woven in actual historical facts, like the fact that at the time, let me make sure I get this right. So Queen Elizabeth II that we know of, her father was called Bertie. His brother and his older brother, I think it's David or Daniel. I think it's David. David was actually the next in line for the monarchy, but he gave it up for an American divorcee by the name of, what was her name? She had two last names as her name. It's like Simpson, something like that. Anyway, she was a divorced lady from America, and at that time you couldn't marry anybody that was divorced and continue and go on to take the crown. So he forfeited all his rights, and that's how Queen Elizabeth II's father became the heir to the throne. So so all that's kind of in this book is talking about Simpson. That's what it was. It was Simpson. So he's talking about how David and Simpson are parading around, their inappropriate love. But that's tied into the story, to the series. It's not the main focal point. That's just like a side note. The actual focal point is Lady Georgiana, and she is the daughter of a duke who has committed suicide. And this is in the period in time where England, all of the wealthy families were losing their wealth because they didn't technically work. They did a lot of investments, and this is right when the war had happened, and then I think their stock market crashed or something, because all of the people who had titles and lands was losing them because of how bad England was doing at this time. And her father had killed himself and left both her and her brother pretty much penniless. They had a castle left, or a house left in, I know, in Scotland, and then they had a home in downtown London. I think it was, I don't remember the actual place, but it was, all they had left to their names was a little bit of money and these two houses. And she's a titled woman, so she technically cannot work, or she should not work, because she could possibly inherit the throne. So because of that, she's technically penniless and homeless, and she becomes a amateur detective, amateur sleuth, initially because she just wants to help solve murders. Eventually, the Queen of England, I think it's Queen Victoria, actually takes her into confidence and says, look, I got some stuff I need you to look into. I need you to take care of this stuff. I need you to make sure these people. So she becomes a spy for the crown, kind of. But things you should know about the series: the books are written in diary format. So at the beginning of each chapter, it's like November 22nd. They're written in the they're set in the time frame of the 1900s. They start in 1932. See here. She does have a love interest. There's absolutely no sex in this book. His name is Darcy, and Darcy's actually a secret agent for the government also. Her mother, her mother is still alive, but her mother is kind of, what is the word? Scandalous, because after she married her father, she divorced him, left him with their children. No, left Georgiana, because her husband's first wife died, and that's who her oldest brother's mother is. And then Georgiana's mother just left. She was an actress. I think she was a British actress, but she was nonetheless. She just left Georgiana with her father and her brother, and went on and married a whole bunch of people, and is now in love with this guy, his German gentleman, who is a Nazi. So they work in the whole like rise of the Nazi party also. So it's not heavy with the history, but it's like it's there. It's historical fiction, and it's very much in the series. Like you're getting a feel for what's going on in the country at that time. So it's a really good series. It's a very cozy murder mystery. So I should take at this point and explain what I conceive, or what I what I consider cozy murder mysteries. And that is that you know for sure that none of the main characters are going to die. They may get hurt, but nothing too much that would cause them any, nothing lethal or nothing. Yeah. So that's what I consider. And the bad person is always caught in the end. Cozy murder mystery. And this series, her royal spyness fits in that to a T. All right, so number 4, we're gonna go to Gail Carringer. She wrote a series called it's called the Soulless series. There's 5 books in the series, and it is set in Victorian London, steampunk Victorian London. So this is not. It's all. It's set in steampunk London, and you're introduced to a young lady by the name of Alexa Terabati. Now, let me give you some backstory about this series. The series is set in London, where there are ghosts, there are werewolves, there are vampires. I don't know. I think those are the main 3. Now, in London, it's very acceptable for these people for these supernatural beings to exist. So they actually hold land. Many of them are titled. It's cool kind of to be a vampire. It's cool to be a werewolf. It's cool. Like they have what they call scavengers, people who stand online to become vampires or become werewolves. They have drones. They treat the vampires much like bees. Like only a queen can make a vampire. So it's all like that, but it's set in stone. Like it's set in the steampunk environment. So there's like air balloons. There's what else? Everything is powered by steam. Like it's very interesting that's what's going on in this series. Like the background, the city of London, Victorian London at this time. So you meet Alexa, and Alexa is what they call a soulless being, meaning that she has no soul whatsoever. And because she is soulless, any supernatural being that comes in contact with her, their abilities are nulled, meaning that vampires can't bite her, werewolves can't. I guess they could still kill her, but they wouldn't be able to. No, because they couldn't kill her. They turn human immediately when they touch her. So any contact with her physical flesh, they become human, basically. Vampires, werewolves. And the thing with ghosts, the ghosts are tethered to a location. So like kind of like how we feel how ghosts are now. Like they're tethered to a house. Like they only hang out in that house, or they only hang out in this area. So it's the great thing about this series is that there's a little bit of sexy time. I didn't know this. This is before I started reading heavy romance. There's a little bit of sexy time, but Alexa is technically a detective. She's solving like a bunch of mysteries around the supernatural. Like there's some weird things starting to happen. There's mad scientists trying to control the vampires, trying to control the werewolves, trying to make ghosts. Like there's a whole bunch of stuff going on in this series. So here are the basic things you need to know about Alexa. Alexa is a soulless person. She meets a vampire who is a very wealthy man, a very big man, and his name is Lord Macan. And Lord Macan loves Alexa. They eventually get married, and this series is good. It starts out in London, England, and it finishes, well, I think by the end of it, they're going to wind up in Egypt, because there's this mystery thing in Egypt that does something also to the supernatural. I would say pick it up. There's a lot of good stuff in it. Another thing that you want to know is like Alexa's mother doesn't like her because she's half Italian. Go figure. She has two sisters who are both English, but her mother doesn't like her because she's half Italian. I know. Her biological mother doesn't like her, Alexa, because she's half Italian and she's olive skin. But Alexa's mother is the one who helped. Okay, we got there. Anyway, so that's the fourth book in the series, or the fourth series on my top 10. The fifth, rounding out the top 5, is Jen McKenna of McKinley, and she writes a series called. She has actually 3 major cozy murder mystery series. She has one surrounding a hat shop, one surrounding a bakery, and the one that I enjoy is surrounding a library, and it's called The Library Lovers Mystery Series. There's 10 books in the series. There's 9 books available right now. The 10th book comes out in September, I believe. Yes, September. Now, in this series, you're introduced to a lady by the name of Lindsay Norris. Lindsay Norris is a director of a library in this small town called Briar Creek. She used to work at, I think it was a major university. So I'm going to say Yale or Harvard, something like that. And she worked there with her ex, and she caught him cheating. So she decides to pack up her shit and move away and start all over again. And she goes to this small town, Briar Creek. It's in Connecticut. And she is an amateur sleuth also. And she is causing havoc. She's not really causing havoc. Well, she's getting on everybody's nerves by helping them solve these murders. The fun thing about these murders is they're all tied to the library. Like, they're always tied to books. Like, someone had a book in their house, or there was like, it's just good. The first story is her best friend Beth's significant other, who lives on this like island, and that's the thing about Briar Creek. Briar Creek is technically like it's set on a big ass lake. And it's like the last mainland in Connecticut. And then there's all these islands out from it. And Beth's boyfriend he lives on this small island by himself. Well, he winds up dead. And she has to help prove that Beth didn't do it. So that's how you're introduced to Lindsay. And the series is very quaint. It's very interesting. There's absolutely no sexy time in this book. I mean, they hint at it, but they don't really get into it like that. Anyway, what else? Oh, she has a boo thing. His name is Sully. He is a boat captain. He's actually the boat taxi that takes people from Briar Creek to the islands around Briar Creek. So yeah, it's a cute series. I think on average I would say the page numbers of these books are probably about 250 to almost 300. So they kind of border on almost getting to be a big book, but not really. I would pick them up if I was you, if you like cozy murder mysteries. So those are my top 5. I'm sorry if it sounds like I'm in a rush. I gotta go wake up my child because we don't need her napping for 9 hours. Anyway, so I will talk to you guys soon with the remaining 4. Yeah, with the remaining 4, the remaining 3 plus the 2 recommendations. So, have a good one, and until next time, bye-bye.